So obviously, you need to buy multiple cars, earn millions, buy a yacht, and a mansion. Duh. Hi everyone, it's Charm again from Ready to Adult Philippines, a channel about personal finance, entrepreneurship, and adulting how-tos. So before we start this video, I want to ask you guys to hit the like button. It really helps out this channel a lot. And also, I want to do something new on this channel. I'm going to be featuring Instagram accounts and comments. So comment down below. And also, you can Instagram story this video. Tag me at Ready to Adult PH for me to feature your Instagram profiles. So yeah, that's it. Let's move on to the video. When we're in our 20s and we're just starting out in this adulting journey, it can seem overwhelming. And we tend to get caught up in the moment. We think we need to have all these material things and unrealistic goals because that's how adults do it, and we don't really know which other way to go. This video can serve as a checklist for some realistic financial goals that you can hit in your 20s. So number one is to understand where your money goes. So you've probably heard me say this multiple times before, but the first step really to getting your finances in order is to have a budget and track your expenses. So the call to action here really is to create and follow a budget. You can use the 80-20 budget or the 50-30-20 budget or even the 60-20-20 budget. But basically the idea there is to have something that fits for yourself and to really try to stick to your budgeting rule. So number two is to stop living paycheck to paycheck. It sounds so easy for some but also impossible for others. So if you're someone who's having troubles with this and you already know where your money goes and you keep a budget, then maybe it's really time to have another stream of income. So that's one solution, and you have an entire decade to try and improve that. And another solution is to really try to live below your means. So I know the more famous quote is to live within your means, but that could mean that you're not saving as much. So when you live below your means and invest and save the rest, then that can be another solution to your problem of living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so number three is to have an emergency fund. Again, it's something that I've talked about here in my channel, but it's especially important with what's happening today with the lockdown and the pandemic. So having an emergency fund can really give you some level of comfort knowing that you're gonna be fine for around 3 to 6 months. So if you don't know what an emergency fund is, it's basically 3 to 6 months. But right now, I really recommend it to be at least 6 months of your living expenses. So I did a rough table here that was based on 4.5 months of your living expenses. So if you're not familiar yet with how much you spend month to month, then you can use this table. But once you've already done step number one, then you can multiply your monthly expenses by 6, and that's something that you have to set aside for emergencies. The fourth is to have multiple savings accounts and label each one of them. Okay, so if you haven't dealt with a bank yet, your 20s is the perfect time to do so. Each savings account or bank account should be labeled. So one can be labeled as your emergency fund, another can be spend whatever you want fund, travel fund, savings for your wedding, savings for your car. So having these clusters of funds can really help you with assigning what your money is for and what you are saving for. But basically, some advantages that you can have when you have a bank account rather than just keeping them in your house is that one, you're gonna have a better relationship with banks, and in the future when you do need loans and credit cards, it would be easier for you to get them. Another is that your money is growing. I mentioned in my past video about the 2 banks that I really like, but basically it's free money. The last one is that you can get bank certificates. So bank certificates really come in handy because it can serve as proof of income, like when you travel, when you apply for visas, and like I mentioned earlier, when you need loans or something similar to that. So next, for number 5 is to have retirement goals. I was initially gonna title this Have Medium-Term and Long-Term Goals, but despite being important as well, I felt like that was too broad. So instead, I want you to think of the end goal. And what is the end goal really? It's retirement, right? It sounds so far away, but when you keep that mindset, it's gonna shock you. You don't realize that you're already 40, you're already 50, and retirement is around the corner. And speaking of age, have a retirement age in mind. And yes, it doesn't always have to be 60. So for example, you want to retire when you're 50. What are the goals that you want to achieve by then? Maybe a house so you don't have to keep paying rent anymore. Maybe you wanna travel before you retire, or maybe it's the opposite, that you wanna retire and travel the world. Maybe you want a family, maybe you don't. So all of these goals really start to take shape, and they make more sense when you do it backwards. So that's something I like to do. I like to take the end goal and try to figure out how I can get there and what other goals I need to hit along the way. So number 6 is to get insured. So again, I'm not a financial advisor, but for you to be able to hit your goals as little hiccup as possible, you want to avoid unnecessary emergency expenses. So similar to the emergency fund, insurance can also help you with that. Let's say, God forbid, you get into a car accident. Getting hospitalized is already expensive enough, and then you have to go and fix your car. So if you're insured both for your life and non-life properties, then normally you wouldn't really need to cash out for these emergencies anymore, and it wouldn't hinder your journey towards your goals. This topic about insurance or life insurance really deserves a video of its own, so comment down below if you're interested to see that video. Okay, for number 7, you need to make sure that you are contributing. So I'm talking about the 3 agencies, SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. You need to know what's going on with your monthly contributions to these agencies. Also, pay voluntarily if your line of work doesn't really require you to contribute. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly summarize what the 3 agencies are generally for. So first is SSS. SSS is basically seen as a retirement fund. So next is PhilHealth or the PHIC. PhilHealth is basically health insurance. Now let's talk about Pag-ibig. So Pag-ibig or HDMF is actually a national savings program, and they're really known to provide housing loans and financing. And another thing to add is that you have access to other savings programs and funds, like the SSS has their Peso Fund and Pag-ibig has the MP2 program. So these are basically mutual funds that you can have access to if you are already a member of these government agencies. Okay, so let's move on from that. Number 8 is to be bad debt free. So what does bad debt free mean? So if you're not very familiar with the concept of bad debt and good debt, basically bad debt is a liability and a good debt is for your assets. And I'm bringing this up because I mentioned earlier about credit cards and loans, and what I'm telling you now is to use them responsibly. Like I said, our 20s can be confusing times wherein we don't really understand what's happening. We don't realize the repercussions of a credit card, and we don't really fully grasp what loans are for. So your 20s are the best time to prime yourself not to have bad debts, so that in your 30s and 40s, you can really take advantage of these so-called good debts. So an example of a bad debt can be a credit card that you're not paying in full every month, because credit cards are known to have really high interest. And an example of a good debt is you have a home loan for an apartment or a condominium, and you are renting this property out, so you have rental income. So that's an example of a good debt because it's also bringing you income and it's actually earning for you. Okay, so we're down to our last goal, which is number 9, to get over your fear of investing. So your 20s are the best time for you to start investing, and you need to realize that you don't need millions to invest. Just invest what you can consistently, especially in your 20s, because that's the time that you can really take advantage of compound interest. So I've mentioned compounding interest before, but if you're new to that word, basically compounding interest just means that your money grows faster and faster over time. So that means if you start investing earlier, your money tends to grow faster, and that's basically what compounding interest is. Okay, so we're done with the 9 financial goals that you can try to hit in your 20s. And even if you're in your 30s or in your 40s, it's never too late to try to achieve all of these goals. Because when I mentioned that these are goals that you can try to hit in your 20s, don't feel so bad if there are some that you miss. Because adulting is an entire journey until we retire. So I know adulting's already hard, but personal finance doesn't have to be. So these are some of the financial goals that you can try to check off your list. And again, if you found this video helpful, then please share them to your friends and family. Like this video and comment down below. It actually really helps to suggest my videos to other people who might be interested in them, and you're really helping this channel out by simply liking and commenting. So thank you very much. And also, you can join our Facebook group, Ready to Adult PH. It's a community of young adults that help each other with our daily struggles. So it's really fun to join that group as well. And again, this has been Charm from Ready to Adult Philippines, and I will see you on my next video.